Welcome in everybody to another exciting episode of The Rundown here on the local sports hour on News Radio WBRN and Big Rapids Daily News on YouTube. Brandon Wirt, Jack Heckman getting you back in the pro level of sports. There's a team in town, maybe not our town, but in the state of Michigan that many people are looking forward to, and they are returning to action very, very soon, and that would be our own Detroit Lions. We're talking all the great things about this upcoming season that are ahead, a season preview, schedule, and the strength of the schedule, as well as roster additions and subtractions, and what you can expect from this year's Detroit Lions squad. But first of all, Jack, how are you doing? I know you're excited to talk about some Lions football, and who is it right now, the way this team's played the last couple of years?
I'm doing pretty amazing, pretty good. Happy to talk about this team. It's a wonderful roster. They have a lot of exciting players and a lot of exciting matchups too on the schedule. It should be exciting to talk about.
It certainly will indeed. And before we get into the fun stuff, big thanks to our sponsors here on the Rundown, those being and including Denny's Muffler and Brakes on State Street in Big Rapids. If you need basic auto repair, especially with muffler and brakes or even an oil change, give them a call at 231-796-6335. That's 231-796-6335 for their support. And also great support going out to our friends at Eagle Village. You make an impact in the lives of youth in your occupation, and it's a beautiful place to work. You can find out more information, eaglevillage.org. They are hiring a plethora of different positions right now. Find out more information, once again, eaglevillage.org. All right, Jack, let's get into it. Let's recap last year. What a magical year it was. Number one seed in the NFC. I mean, just talk about every record that this team had broken of their own history, rewriting history. What a dominant year, especially in the regular season. Don't want to talk about the postseason, but we have to. I mean, ran into a really good Washington team, and really wasn't necessarily a better Washington team, but a more momentumous, hot Washington team going into that game, and they just edged it out, and that's the way the game of football sometimes works. But still a great season. I mean, 15-2 record. Best in the NFC, best team in football and power rankings almost the whole year, dominated some teams, putting up over 40 and 50 points on multiple occasions. This was a fun team to watch last year. Now, we'll talk about some pieces that we're losing and some pieces that we're gaining and how that will compare. But in of itself, last year was a special year for Lions football, and I know a lot of Motor City faithful and Michiganders really enjoyed their run.
Yeah, most definitely. You said it was magical. It was pretty much magical until it wasn't magical anymore in the playoffs. This was a team that really dominated that regular season. I mean, you put teams on the schedule. I mean, Dallas, a revenge game. It was sad, Aiden Hutchinson go down. If he doesn't go down, he probably wins Defensive Player of the Year last year. He was having that dominant of the first 4 games of the season. You go back, you look at some of the losses. Tampa Bay, that's a revenge game for Tampa Bay in the playoffs 2 years ago. Going down farther, that's the Bills, who have the greatest roster in football. They have a top 3 roster in all of football right now. And then the playoff loss, obviously, like you said, Washington, Jaden Daniels is on pace to be, if he can follow it up and not have a sophomore slump, he's going to have one of the greatest, 5-year stretches to start a career if he can keep it going in and leading a team to an NFC championship. And no rookie's ever won a Super Bowl. There's been very few guys who have led a team to a conference championship game. But this is a team that, going back and looking at their schedule, you have wins like you dominate the Vikings for the last game of the year. You dominate the Bears. You beat the Packers on a Thursday night at Ford Field. You beat the Bears again on Thanksgiving. And then you beat the Packers at Lambeau. This is a team that swept their division. It's going to be a lot different this year because how tough that division is going to be. And it's a team last year that was ready for a storybook ending, but had the fairy tale end a little bit too soon.
Absolutely, indeed. And back-to-back NFC North champions, these Detroit Lions were this last year. And also notable one thing, it was, one of their first 10-win seasons a year ago before with a 10-plus win record. And not only that, how about 15 wins? Not even 10, 11, just scraping right. But no, let's just blow it out of the water. Let's get 15, right? And number one seed in the NFC, of course. They also won their first Thanksgiving Day game since 2016. I know many fans were very happy about that. And why wouldn't you? Especially after the years we've watched this team play at Ford Field on Thanksgiving and just come up ever so slightly short. But this team is ready to go. Obviously, we're talking about them right now because they're getting back on the field. Training camp starts up very, very soon. Some teams have already reported. And right now, as of when we're recording this on Wednesday, you guys are probably hearing this or watching this on Thursday or Saturday, they have already sold out training camp. Tickets went on sale 24 hours ago, and they're already sold out. That just goes to tell you this fan base is bought into biting kneecaps and the formula of success to the finish line, and they're expecting a good season from the Detroit Lions. And we'll talk about the schedule here in just a minute, but a lot of winnable games on this schedule this year and a lot of opportunity to run it back.
Yeah, most definitely. This is a favorable schedule, and also at the same time, it's not a favorable schedule. That first half of this Lions team is going to be rough. If they can figure it out with two new coordinators, you hire from within, which I mean, for some teams it works, and some teams it doesn't work. There's a lot of teams, like I'll just use the Pittsburgh Steelers for example. They've hired from within for the past 10 to 15 years. That you come in, you hire out, and get an Arthur Smith, and that offense has been okay. But we're talking about the Lions here. This is a Lions team that there's such a buy-in culture for this Lions team. That's why they were able to win 15 games last year.
Absolutely. And notable games on this year's schedule for 2025. I mean, you talked about the first half of the year, Jack. You're absolutely right. I mean, it's a gauntlet. You start right out of the gate at Lambeau Field, right? In week one against the Packers. Then you have the Ford Field rematch of the Bears and the Caleb Williams slash, of course, coaching staff blunder from a year ago. What they were doing that last play, still nobody knows. Then you go to Baltimore to play the Ravens, and then you host the Browns. Then you go to see Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes back to back Bengals and Chiefs. And then, of course, you're like, oh, yeah, we'll get a week off. No, then you have to play, of course, who else but's been the stingiest team that's given us the most hard times last 2 years in Tampa Bay at home in Ford Field. Then you get to your bye week. From then on out, then you get a little bit of more some favorable games, right? You start off with the Vikings at home. Then you go see Jaden Daniels in Washington, right? Then see if they can get the revenge game against the Commanders or football team or whatever they call themselves. And then you go and play at the Eagles, right? Of course, the defending Super Bowl champs. But then after that, they get a little bit of a downhill, right? Just a little bit of a let up. Then they go and play the Giants at home. Then they play the Packers at home. Then they play the Cowboys at home. Finally, we don't have to play in Dallas this year. And then you go to the Rams. Then you host the Steelers, and then you go to the Vikings and Bears to finish out the season. So you're right, Jack. First 8 games, that's a gauntlet. A lot of good teams, a lot of air assault teams. This was really a defense that did a very good job of pressuring the passer compared to years past. Still, there's some work to be done, but better. Run stuffing, we've seen the defensive tackles, Brad Holmes, what he's done with those guys in drafting them, and their development has been great under that coaching staff. But susceptibility to long, deep passes, especially in some crucial moments of the game, you're going to really be tested out of the gate when you're facing Burrow and his receiving core. You're facing Patrick Mahomes, and then you're obviously going to be having to deal with Lamar Jackson once again, which many Lions fans don't want to remember what happened 2 years ago.
Yeah, most definitely. This is a team, you said it, air assaults. You got Green Bay, and Jordan Love is the only true traditional gunslinger left in the game. Caleb Williams in Chicago, who, in my opinion, I think they have a chance to have a top 10 offense in all of football, but that defense is a huge question mark for that team. So if this Lions team can take advantage of that Bears team, they can start the season off 2-0, or they could be split 1-1. And then, like you said, Baltimore. I'm a Steelers fan myself, so I've experienced Lamar Jackson for the past 6 years, and it has been terrible to watch. The Steelers has trouble with him, but that's a Ravens team that, like you said, 2 years ago just dominated this Lions team in Baltimore 38-6. Cleveland's a team where who knows where Cleveland's going with anything right now. Cincinnati, they catch Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. That is if that is the best, a top two wide receiver and a top three, top five quarterback in the league. Pat Mahomes, a top five quarterback in the league. And that roster is well rounded for that Chiefs team. And then, like you said, Tampa Bay, that's a team who's given the Lions trouble. Minnesota's, who knows where J.J. McCarthy's going and where Justin Jefferson's going. But J.J. McCarthy's got a well supporting cast between him and Jordan Addison. That's a team that he's set up for success, and that's going to be a tough divisional game. The Commanders, giving them trouble last year. Jane Daniels has, like I said, potential to win MVP. He has a chance to be a top five quarterback in the NFL, following up an amazing rookie season. And Philadelphia last year had probably one of the best rosters we've seen in the NFL in quite some time. With Saquon Barkley going for 2,000 yards, who knows? He's got the Madden curse on him now, so who knows where that Philly team goes. And then the Giants, that's just a team that's going to struggle. Rookie quarterback, second-year wide receiver Malik Neighbors, and then the Packers, like I said earlier, true gunslinger. If the Lions team with those new and improved secondary can get to it, they can absolutely dominate that game. Dallas is a team where they could win 12 games, or they could be a team that wins 6 games. It's really who knows on that one. The Rams are a team that this is probably Stafford's last year, and it's probably the last time Stafford gets to face this Lions team. Should be a win there. The Steelers are just had the most confusing offseason, I think, in all of football. Bringing in guys and then just replacing them with guys who were either older or just about the same. And who knows if Aaron Rodgers could even make it 16 games in that season. And then after that, you got at Minnesota on Christmas, a Netflix game. That's another primetime game for this Detroit Lions team. And then after that, you have the flex game versus the Bears. This is a team that's got like we both said, a favorable second half versus a really tough first 11 weeks where you play teams that were really outside of Chicago and Cleveland were all could be playoff teams last year if you include teams like Cincinnati. But this is a team where it's like you have a 425 game, a Monday night football game, another 425 game, a Sunday night football game, a Monday night doubleheader game, and then a 425 game. You're going to be in the spotlight, plus that Philly game. You're going to be in the spotlight this whole season. And this is a team that's going to be really heavily followed by the media like they have been the last 2 years.
There's no doubt about that. And just in retrospect and strength of schedule, the Lions, the third toughest schedule based on last year's win percentages in all of the NFL this coming year. And out of the top seven, all four NFC North teams, the Bears in second, Lions in third, and then you obviously have the Packers and Vikings at 6 and 7, respectively. So NFL knows this is going to be a very good division this year. It's going to be very interesting to follow, especially when you saw two 14 plus win ball clubs last year in the same division. You don't see that every day. Let's talk about the roster. Obviously, some guys going in and out this last year. Really good pickups last year, especially when you talk about guys like Carlton Davis. Darius Smith down the stretch was a big add, especially later in the regular season. But there's going to be some very interesting question marks, right? And you look at where this team has kind of reloaded. We obviously lost Carlton Davis after bringing him in last year as he's going to New England, but you bring in DJ Reed, a very explosive guy out of the Jets in that secondary that's made some big plays over the last couple of years in that secondary. Then you have some other guys coming in to be able to help out, and there's a lot of draft picks obviously that we can talk about as well. Obviously losing Frank Ragnow is a huge one, right? He's our mighty captain that's been really the stonehold of that offensive line for so many years at the center position. We wish him the best in retirement, but it's probably going to be one of those young guys right now that's looking to be in that spot, right? Whether it's Tate Ratledge, who I've heard is taking snaps there, whether they're looking at Miles Frazier in that spot, or maybe Christian Mahogany starting to flex, or Graham Glasgow goes back to snapping. We're going to have to wait and see what the Lions have in store. But you obviously retain guys, sign them long term, right? With JMO, you're looking at Amon-Ra St. Brown, you're looking at Aiden Hutchinson to have a big bounce back year. Aleem McNeil's going to do some damage. Alex Anzalone is healthy once again. It's good to have him there. And then you obviously have David Montgomery, Jared Goff, a lot of the key pieces to this offense. Sam Laporta, who had a monster year last year, even though it wasn't to the necessary same standard as his rookie season. But you still got a lot of big things. The defensive backfield, question after question every year. Overall on the roster, assuming everybody keeps healthy, right? You look at Amik Robertson, Terrion Arnold trying to get that sophomore step forward, if you will, and then obviously adding DJ Reed and now having those guys back there, especially with Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch in the secondary, right? As those safeties. I mean, if these guys can stay healthy and make that development to the next level, we could be talking about a top 10 unit in football in that defensive backfield, but consistency has to be imperative. That's a number one key for this team to improve.
Yeah, most definitely. And there's a guy I'll highlight, Terrion Arnold out of Alabama. He cannot have a sophomore slump because he might just lose his spot, starting because you have guys. This secondary's been worked on for the last couple of years. You got Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph. That's probably the best safety duo in all of the NFL, maybe outside of what they have in Baltimore. And then you got DJ Reed. You bring in Amik Robertson. You bring in or you brought in last year, and then Terrion Arnold, like I said, on that left side. But after that, you have Dan Jackson, who was really good at Georgia, a 6th-round draft pick. He's going to play that backup strong safety. But Ennis Rakesaw out of Missouri last year drafted. You bring in Avonte Maddox, Rock Ya-Sin. These are all those guys you can plug and play those guys whenever you have to. Right now they're depth pieces, but who knows if they move in, week 7, if Terrion Arnold or Robertson, struggles a little bit. Those are guys, and that's how deep this secondary is going to be this season. Where, like you said, this team could easily have a top 10, top 5, pass coverage defense, and they could also end up having a good run stuffing defense because you have guys like Aiden Hutchinson who would have won Defensive Player of the Year last year if he had not been hurt. Aleem McNeil's been great on that D tackle. DJ Reader, you come in and you draft Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State, Marcus Davenport. Those are all those guys right there, and Levi Onwuzurike. Those are 6 guys right there that can rotate and play. Like Hutchinson doesn't necessarily have to be that offensive end. He can switch sides, all these different stunts this defense can come up with. And having Aaron Glenn last year, who's now with the Jets, it's going to be a huge, question mark for these first couple weeks for this Lions team. But if you're a Lions fan, those first 4 weeks, I wouldn't buy too hard into what they're doing.
Right, and you have to take into consideration, of course, the strength of schedule that they're going to be dealing with the first couple games of the year. But you're absolutely right as well on the defensive line, right? The sack consistency, the pressure consistency. Can they provide that to opposing quarterbacks when you're going to be playing a lot of these premier quarterbacks in the first 8 games of the season, right? You obviously mentioned Hutch bringing back, of course, Marcus Davenport after we didn't see him that many games last year. We really didn't get to see his potential, what he did in Minnesota last year, just because his season was cut short due to injury. Then you add in DJ Reader, of course, and Aleem McNeil obviously will miss some time, but you have Tyleik Williams, you have Owens Enrique, and Al-Qadim Muhammad was a guy that provided a lot of sparks last year as well. He was a guy that really made some impacts down the stretch. So we'll see. And Josh Pascal as well can rotate in and out there. Obviously, you still got Jake Bates and Jack Fox, two of the best specialists in all of football, punting and kicking the football. And so that's got to literally going to be a cornerstone for this team. And really the offensive consideration, I think, looking into this year, and I think a lot of people would agree that the aggressiveness is a great thing and a bad thing at the same time. Controlling that, obviously, right in the execution of looking at the playoffs and those kind of things. You're looking at how that's going to really line up and work out in the flow of the game. But it's going to be how aggressively do they play this year, learning from last year, right? A lot of the over aggression, still winning some games, right? Do they feel that pressure? Are they going to run it back? Because we know Dan Campbell, he's not a guy that's not afraid to gamble, right? It's Campbell's gamble. We always see this on fourth down. He's going for it. It could be a whole game plan, the whole game. But how does the offense do with containing and controlling and keeping the football, right? Jared Goff, obviously, the Houston game last year, turned it over way too many times. We still won the game. Can they be better? Can they be more efficient? Right? That would be the big question mark because they have the weapons to do it. Getting JMO, right? Obviously, you have Khalif Raymond still. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown. You brought back Tim Patrick. Sam Laporta is obviously still there. Brock Wright's still there. And then you add in some guys, right? Isaac Tasla out of Hillsdale, right? A Michigander, right? In the draft. So you got a lot of athleticism on the outside. Dominic Lovett as well as George is in the mix there too. So there's a lot of guys competing on those skill spots. And then obviously you have Montgomery and Gibbs, one of the best, if not the best, tandem in the backfield in all the NFL. So how aggressive do they play it this year? I think it's still vary. But did Dan Campbell, especially now that has John Morton as his offensive coordinator, right? And let's face it, Kelvin Shepard's a great coach, but he's a rookie defensive coordinator too. Will that adjust how aggressive he plays with that offense? That'll be something to watch.
Yeah, most definitely. And highlighting going a little bit back to the roster, there's some more, household names if you're not a huge NFL guy. Malik Taylor played at Ferris State. Ronnie Bell, a guy from Michigan. There's a lot of guys who, are a little bit more household names in the area if you're a college football fan. And obviously, if you're a high school football fan in the Grand Rapids, around like Cedar Springs, that area, you would remember a guy like Isaac Tisala, who went to Hudsonville, I believe. Unity Christian, I think he went to. And he's out of Arkansas now. There's some household names on this team. If you're not a huge NFL guy, like Aiden Hutchinson would be another guy you'd remember, from those sort of days. And maybe if you're a Big Ten fan, a Kirby Joseph out of Illinois, Levi Onwuzurike, I think, is out of Washington, I want to say. There's some guys on this team who are, household names inside this. But like you said, going back to those gambling things, this is a team that they have weapons, 100% have weapons. And they're probably one of the most weaponized teams in the NFL from a balance aspect. But it's like you said, do you want to take that gamble? It's always a huge thing because if that gamble pays off, nice. You have a first down in your own zone or your own territory. If it doesn't work off, you've just gave, the Cleveland Browns, for example, who are, say they're up 7 already. You just gave them the ball at the 5-yard line. Does it work out? Most of the times for Campbell, this Lions team works on it so much in practice that I think they're so confident in themselves that they can do anything. And hopefully they have some, good aspirations going forward and win some good games this year.
You're absolutely right. Before we sign off, Jack, I want to get your predictions as well, as far as a record, maybe not necessarily the exact record, or at least where you can see this team as far as a ceiling and a floor, and then obviously some breakout guys to look out for. I'm looking at this roster, and I don't think we should be expecting a 15-win season once again, just based on how this schedule is. I could see the ceiling of this team being a very, very good 13-win ball club. I could see the floor of maybe being a 9-10, win team. I think that's a good expectation considering we're playing the Chiefs, the Bengals, the Ravens. We're playing all these good teams and the Packers and the Vikings alone in our division, right? Maybe it's not the best expectation to say expect to go in 6-0. Obviously, that's their expectation, but for us as fans, maybe we got to let up just a little bit and appreciate how special of a year was last year. So I would go to say 10-7 might be the floor for this team, maybe even 9-8, but obviously a high ceiling of up to 13-4 if they can really get it done early in the year. And I'll tell you what, I mean, we could be talking about Jahmyr Gibbs being one of the best backs in football. Knock on wood, I'm doing it right now on the table next to me that he stays healthy, and these guys, especially in the offensive line, lock it down for him as they've done the last couple years. I mean, we've seen him have incredible seasons, but now rumor has it he's taken more snaps out wide as a receiver. That means he's even going to get more involved with JMO, with Amon-Ra. Those guys are going to draw enough attention. He's going to have a monster year potentially. And then on the defensive side of the ball, without obviously Malcolm Rodriguez early in the year, these linebackers are going to have to step up. Alex Anzalone, but maybe this is the year we see a guy, maybe it's Trevor Nowatzki, maybe it's Derek Barnes, maybe it's Jack Campbell. One of those guys is going to have a big step up opportunity this year, maybe to lead this team in tackles, and we'll see if they can really have a really rock solid second level to complement potential growth with those defensive backs. Jack, what do you got as far as your floor, ceiling of a record, and potential breakout players on both sides of the ball?
So I'll go with I think the floor for this Lions team is a 10-7 team. I think the ceiling is 13. I think it's gonna be tough to get to 14. I think it's gonna be even tough to get to 13, 14, just so on and so forth. Those type of wins because you have teams like you start the year with three tough teams. This is a Packers team that's, obviously they're gonna want revenge over this Packers team or this Lions team, I should say. This is one of the, biggest growing rivalries in the NFL right now, and the popularization between these two teams, or between this rivalry, I should say, after the Lions last 10, 15 years between this Packers team. They're both really, really good right now and both have high hopes on this new season. That's going to be a tough game. And then Chicago, who knows what they're going to do. And then Baltimore. This team could start 0-3 or this team could start 3-0. But like I said earlier, I don't think you really need to necessarily buy into those first 3 weeks if this team goes 0-3. Obviously, if this team is 3-0, you 100% buy in and have high hopes for the rest of the season. But easily, I could see this team finishing on a 7-game win streak. They have such a favorable schedule in that second half. But like I said, I think this is a team that goes 11-6 or 12-5. And then for some breakouts on the offensive side, I think you're looking at some guys like I think this is a year, you've seen Jameson Williams do really good these last couple of years, but I think this is a year he takes that step and is a true could be wide receiver one on almost any other NFL team, but he's that wide receiver two on the Lions. I think he's going to have that huge step. They talk about, I don't like throwing out the term Pro Bowl because to me, the Pro Bowl doesn't mean all that much. It's the All Pro that means the most to most of these guys. That Pro Bowl has really just become a flag football game. There's really not a whole lot of hope. But I think Jameson Williams is that breakout. He 100% takes that next step forward and keeps on progressing. And on the defensive side of things, this is a team that's got some weapons, and I think I'm going to go with the same way that you're going to go. I think Jack Campbell's going to have a huge breakout season for this Lions team. If he's able to go out there, stay healthy, he could have a huge breakout season for this Lions team.
Great picks indeed. And thank you all for tuning in, whether you're live with us on the radio at 3:30 on News Radio WBRN, which, by the way, you can catch all of our games. We'll have the Lions preseason and regular season games for you on 96.5 and 1460 AM each and every Sunday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whenever they play. If they show up in the parking lot, wherever, where Dan Campbell says, we'll have the games for you. You can find out more information on WBRN.com, and Big Rapids Daily News will have the schedule and all that information coming out to you very soon, as it's July 31st. That's when this preseason game starts against the Chargers. So we'll have that coverage for you here. So tune in for that and all the great Lions football coverage. For Brandon Wirt, Jack Heckman. Jack, anything last to say before we sign off?
Should be an exciting season. Can't wait to watch this Lions team go out and win some football games.
I'll tell you what, I'm looking at tickets already because I know they're going to be gone in a hurry once they go on sale for sure. We'll see you guys later, everybody. Stay tuned. You're on the rundown on Big Rapids Daily News.